Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome to another Boilon video. Today, we're going to be talking about Alliance War Team investment. And what I mean by this is, because this is a huge war patch with Young Avengers, with Dark Hunters, I want to take a look at how long is it going to take you to recoup the cost of investing in a team like this, whether it's Young Avengers, whether it's Dark Hunters, and hell, whether it's Weapon X or something like that. You know, a war-specific team that you're investing in for largely war purposes. I'll say like Dark Hunters, there's maybe only like one character that possibly could be good outside of their team in another game mode. But other than that, there's a lot of people out there who may be investing in specific characters for this game mode. I want to take a look at how long it's going to take you to get that stuff back. So, interesting video here. There's going to be a spreadsheet. Hopefully you guys will stick with it. And of course, without further ado, let's get this show started. Okay. And so we have this spreadsheet. I built this on one of my live streams on Twitch. It's not a very big spreadsheet, don't worry. But there's a few assumptions that I want to take here before we start talking about the total cost of a war team. So what I'm doing, because I'll admit, war team characters are not typically one you're gonna... Some people go balls to the wall and do like gear tier 15 and like level 85 and all that. I'm not making that heavy of an assumption here in this spreadsheet, but we are going to say that we're talking about building 5 full characters that need to be built, gear tier 14 and level 80. Okay, so the gear tier 14 is pretty reasonable, I think, because if you want a good character, there's a pretty big stat bump that you're going to get at gear tier 14. And I think because now that we have a cap at level 85, I think there are a good amount of people that are leveling up characters to, you know, somewhere between level 75 and 80. I mean, you need 75 anyways for gear tier 14, but 80 you get some decent stats there as well. As far as the goal, the rewards that we're talking about though for war, we are assuming a Platinum 1 league rank. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I think it's quite easy to get to, frankly. My baby account, who's still running Ultimus 7, is in a war league of a Platinum 1. And so, I don't know, maybe it's just, I guess it's easy to get to, it's not super difficult to get there, and so that's what we're assuming for rewards. Now, level 85 G50, actually this is supposed to say level 80 G14, costs approximately 10.5 million gold. The full maximum, like level 85 gear tier 15, this typically costs around 13 million gold. So just to put in perspective, 5 levels are typically around 2 million. So I just subtracted a bit there. And for the purposes of this is supposed to say to 400. I don't know why I had that. 400 T4s average per character. I think what I get it. I think what I meant to say was that 2 abilities. So either or, however you want to look at it. I would say on average for new characters, you want to take a look at about 2 T4s per character. Sometimes you can get away with a little bit less. Sometimes you can get away with a little bit more. But to be honest, you know, these days with the way the character reworks are and things like that, you're probably investing in at least 2 T4 upgrades. And that typically averages out around 400. Now, the Sbc cost. Now, I'll say up front, I haven't calculated, you know, what the monthly income for superior basic catalysts are, but this is something that I know it's not specifically war related, because war actually gives ABCs, the purple ABCs, not orange SBCs. This is something that I'm actually going to make a suggestion to, I think, to the Envoy channel, because I think that as far as improving war rewards, and we're going to take a look at this when we really think about, you know, what we're getting every war. It's not a lot, but why do we not have SBCs as a reward, and we're still getting, even in high platinum tier ranks, we're getting 25 ABCs, purple ABCs that we don't need. But it takes around 1,000 SBCs on average for a G14 character. A little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, depending on how many gear pieces, orange gear pieces that you have to equip, things like that. For just for sheer giggles, you know, gear tier 15 typically will cost you around 2,000. Actually, it almost doubles. So the amount of resources for SBCs, anyways, that you need to go from G14 to 15 is about double that. So it's a lot. So if you're taking any of these characters even further than G14, you're looking at a significant amount of orange gear investment for a war team. But let's carry on. So Knowing all of that stuff above, so we've kind of just calculated all this and multiplied it by 5, right? So you have 52.5 million gold. That's going to be the cost to level up, to gear tier up, to ability material up, all of that stuff. 5 characters to level 80, gear tier 14, and the associated ability costs. Tier 4s. Now, this is about 2,000 tier 4s. It's just 400 times by 5. Nothing fancy there. Superior Basicalis, you're looking at about 5,000 of that, which is a fair bit, I must say. So to put into perspective right now, my main account, Boilon, has about 6,000 SBCs. So if I were to go into Dark Hunters, because none of my Dark Hunters, including Ghost Rider, Elsa, and Mordo, none of them are gear tier 13. I have them around gear tier 12. So I would have to put in this much SBCs to get them to to gear tier 14, for example. So that would almost clear out my stash, my current stash. For my baby account, I'm sitting at around 15,000 SBCs, and that's after clearing Dark Dimension 2 and Dark Dimension 3. And that represents about a good third of my total SBCs for that account. So it's not, it's still a lot to keep it into consideration. But let's talk about the kind of resources that you get from golden T4s for war winning and war losses. Well, at Platinum 1, you get about 375k per win and about 225k per loss. You get a flat 25 T4s, whether you win or lose, which I guess is good. But over the 28 days, I'm not talking about all the other shit, the purple ABCs, the war credits, elite war credits, and I'm not really considering that at this point. Just flat out golden T4s until I find a better way to calculate SBCs. This might be a little challenge for me that I might do in the near future, is to, maybe figure out how many SBCs I did earn actually over 30 days. That would be kind of interesting. But over 28 days, the way I calculated this is you get 3 wars a week. And so over 28 days, that's 12 wars. They do push you towards a 50% win-loss ratio. So the way I did that was I just did 6 war wins, 6 war losses, added them all up together, and you get 3.6 million gold. You also get 300 T4s times 12, of course, 25 times 12. And so that's what you're getting on a monthly basis. Now take this, at least the gold and the T4s, and divide those two numbers. And this gets you 14.6 months to recoup the gold required for these characters strictly from war. And the reason why and 6.7 for the T4s. It's still quite a bit, not as much as the gold. Why am I talking about this at all? Because I've talked to a lot of people with regards to Alliance War. A lot of, more ardent followers of my channel know that I'm not super big into war. And I know this is a little bit topsy-turvy this patch because I am investing into Young Avengers. Don't tell anyone. I made a reason for that. Everyone knows because I have a really built-up Squirrel Girl at 7 red. That's why I'm doing it, but I wouldn't normally recommend this for other players. But as far as war teams go, I think people don't quite understand the disconnect here in war rewards. That the amount of war rewards you get is actually pretty minimal. To put this into perspective, for those of you who don't know, 3.6 million gold on a monthly basis in war is the same amount of gold that you're getting from tier 7 payday over every month. So I believe now you get 1.2 million per attempt on payday tier level 7, so that's 3.6 over a month. So you're actually going to be able to invest less into the payday characters, the mercs or whatever, to do tier 7 and get 3.6 million gold. It's just, it's so weird. War as a game mode needs to be better than that. And I think that really just drives home that war is not worth investing in personally unless the characters have wider benefit outside of the war game mode. So that's why I wanted to talk about, say, the Dark Hunters. I think out of all of them, the only character that probably will have some relevance is Dr. Voodoo. I'm saying that without actually testing them, but I think that's going to be the case. And for Young Avengers, of course, at best, maybe Kate Bishop, we'll have to see. And then Squirrel Girl maybe as well, because I use Squirrel Girl in raids. I know not everyone does, but, at least I'm making some use out of her. So there's not a lot of times where there's good characters within a war team that's usable outside the team. So Weapon X, let's take that for example. You get Omega Red and Lady Deathstrike. The rest of them realistically aren't very good outside of a war mode. So you usually only get 1 or 2 characters from every team that actually have any viability at all. For Marauders, it was Sinister and Emma, right? Even though Emma doesn't have the Marauders tag, but whatever, we're counting it for that. So this is a common trend here. So you're consuming 52.5 million gold, of which probably about 30 of that is going to be, you know, wasted on characters that you're not going to use outside of war. And it's going to take you this long to recoup the investment for that. So it just doesn't feel good. You know, and the SBC and the minis aside, you know, if you include the SBCs, the minis, all of that stuff that you're investing into these characters, and for the record, Dark Hunters is also a Mystic team, you know, on the back of some really solid Mystics that you're probably going to want to gear anyways. Characters like the Eternals, characters like the Cloak and Dagger and the New Warriors. This isn't an anti-Dark Hunters video. It's more of like an anti war teams video, and more of a caution to make sure that you understand that if this is something you want to do, make sure you're doing it because you love it. If you love Alliance War and you want to go all into these characters, great, own it. That's fine. You know, I that's great. That's awesome. You know, if you really love Alliance War, more the power to you. But just understand that the investment that you're putting into these characters isn't going to translate super well outside of the game mode typically, and it's going to take you a while to recoup that. You know, and I guess that's the problem here, going back to the game a little bit, is that, you know, we're in a time, especially this patch, with 4 new warrior characters with a bunch of reworked ones, you know, and so it's just not a great... I would personally... There's not enough resources to go around for everyone. And I talked about this in a previous video when we talked about resource management, you know, and I don't want to do it too much again, but really you do have to understand that you have to decide where you're going to put your resources and how long it's going to take for you to recoup this more generally, whether it's from Alliance rewards or Alliance War rewards or not. And this brings me to another thing here. I know I'm mid-war here. I do want to talk about the Alliance War rewards though, before we end the video, because I think that it's really important to bring this up. And this is something that I want to share with the envoys. I want to share this with other content creators and get their opinion on this, because I think it's really important. I didn't mean to hit the participation tab. The league info tab. I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. You know, and I said this before, the rewards need to be better, you know? So even in the, hell, even in Diamond, it feels really lackluster to me. T4s, maybe that's okay here, but the rest of it, why do we not have SBCs? I said this at the beginning. Why do we not have more stuff in here? We're moving towards a time where Grand Tournament is just around the corner. Grand Tournament's going to be out in about less than a month. No, maybe about a month. You know, so whenever patch 6.0 is. And so what are the rewards going to look like there? Is it going to be on par with Alliance War? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be less? You know, imagine being in Diamond tier and you're really not getting that much more. 400k versus 240 on the defeats. I'm in Platinum too, so, you know, just let's compare just for shits and gigs. 375 and 225. So what is that? A difference of 25k on the win and 15k on the loss? Doesn't feel very good. Also, ditch the purples or add more. So this is a kind of a twofold video here. It's about being careful about your investment into war characters, but it's also the fact that we need more and more to justify the investment. It's just not. I can't justify it at all, frankly, and I don't know what it's going to look like for Grand Tournament, because I heard a rumor that the patch 6.0 team is going to be a Grand Tournament team. So if they're making you invest into one particular game mode, the rewards need to be worth you making those investments. If they're not viable outside of, you know, that game mode, it makes it a really tough sell, I think. So I'd caution people quite heavily on investing in characters that don't have wider use in the game. I think, you know, if you're using characters daily, that's awesome. If you're not, I would really be careful about it. So those are just some of my thoughts about Alliance War more generally and investment into war-ish. I'll say war-ish characters because there are some occasionally that are viable more broadly, but very rarely are they. So that's the end of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Would you like to see, I think we'd all like to see increased Alliance War rewards. You know, what would it need to be at for us to consider investing in war characters? Does it have to be double these rewards? Like where would you be at and be okay with spending on it for those of you who don't? I think it would have to be at least double the rewards here for me to justify, you know, spending into war characters, I think, at this point. So that's where I sit. Otherwise, stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.